Hey guys, how you doing? It's Victor. I'm sorry I'm not gonna be able to do this presentation in person, but I'm not actually in Colombia at the moment. So I wanna apologize with all of you for any inconvenience I'm causing, and I wanna thank you all as well for your attention, for your understanding. Well, during this presentation, I'm gonna talk about one of the topics you already saw, and it's the World Trade Organization's rules on unfair trade, and hopefully it's not going to be the same as my previous teammates did. I'm going to be more focused on the concerns about the World Trade Organization role, and as well how these tools are affecting international negotiations around the world today. So I'm going to start with a little bit of the context. First of all, it is important to understand that nowadays the world is completely interconnected, and it's become a huge market in which all of us, no matter how, are actively participating, right? This international trade is having huge impacts on people's everyday life. Sometimes it is affecting the livelihood of huge or large portions of people all around the world, right? So what seems to be the problem here? As international barriers have disappeared, developed economies are using these international organizations such as the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund to establish unfair practices. And this is obtained by putting pressure on small, weak economies that really need to get access to those developed markets because they normally have larger economies, larger markets for international products. And these are most of the times are affecting small developing countries and the people in these countries. And although international organizations such as the World Trade Organization are supposed to be there to protect fair competition around the world, the truth is this is not really happening, and it's affecting small and weak economies that do not have the means to compete in these terms. But still, it is important to notice that the World Trade Organization's objective is to provide the means to facilitate negotiation between countries in order to get to a better and sustainable international trading system. And according to this objective and rather effective negotiations, of course, some remedies have been established to help international trade to be a bit more fair amongst economies, right? So one of them is, for example, the anti-dumping system. But first of all, it is important to understand what dumping means. And dumping is when, for example, a company exports a product to another country at a price that is actually lower than the price it normally charges in its home country. And it happens a lot when companies are trying to get some market share through taking customers from the competition using prices that are uncompetitive and are not really healthy for the market. And in order to deal with this, World Trade Organization has established an anti-dumping agreement in order to discipline this sort of behavior situations rather than forbid them in the international trading system, right? So this is actually one of those examples where the international organization is being used in the interest of stronger economies rather than small ones. And the results are that some countries are gathering and forming some groups like the Friends of Anti-Dumping Negotiations, and they believe that the existing anti-dumping agreement should be improved to counter what they consider to be an abuse of the way anti-dumping measures can be applied around the world today. So this group is confirmed, as you may see with the flags in there, is confirmed by the leaders of the emerging world, like Brazil, China, Chile, Mexico. There's Colombia as well. And what's important to understand from there is that small countries, developing economies, are not really happy of what's going on with the international trading system nowadays, and that's one of the reasons that is actually making these groups to conform and to get power in the international context. And the same is happening with the subsidies that are another kind of unfair practice that is going on a lot in the international context nowadays. So the subsidies are a form of financial or in-kind support that is extended to an economic sector or to an institution, a business, or an individual, and is generally aimed on promoting beneficial economic and social outcomes. And these practices are actually raising a lot of concerns because are not really fair for international companies that are trying to act in a foreign market. And institutions as the World Trade Organizations are not being really helpful because, as I stated before, they're more concerned about larger economies issues. So it's actually been said that the World Trade Organization is unrepresentative and undemocratic and undermines the sovereignty of governments. And what we can identify is that some concerns have rise and about the World Trade Organization rules and liberalization, because countries are starting to think that this strong interest for free trade is actually destroying jobs and is depressing wages and affecting workers' rights. And as this, there are many unfair practices that are trying to be controlled by some remedies that are being managed by international organizations such as the World Trade Organization, and this is actually causing quite the opposite of what they are actually intended to cause, because markets are actually closing as a kind of retaliation of what they're getting from these international unfair practices. And they're closing by using different kind of countervailing measures such as duties or undertakings by the exporting firms, or actually sanitary rules that can affect many regions around the world. And as I said before, sometimes these measures to counteract unfair practices are being considered actually barriers for free trade rather than protection tools. And well, this is important for international businesses because these situations are raising concerns and affecting the way companies interact amongst themselves within the globe. So it is really important to identify and understand different trends and behaviors of different countries, regions, industries within this to develop better negotiation strategies. You know, as the teacher said one day, information is actually leverage, and it is really important to actually know before you get involved into an international negotiation if this country establishing any mean of protection or conservation tool in order to protect their domestic industries against foreign competition. And sometimes the result is that they will try to eliminate competition, and the negotiation probably is not going to work out really well, right? Well, to end with the presentation, I think the most important thing to know is that it is important to understand these certain rules that are affecting international markets, because sometimes it may affect us as well. And well, I hope you guys like the presentation, and I hope you actually enjoyed it. And well, thank you very much for your attention, for your understanding again, and have a good week. See you later.